Hi guys, this is Stormmouse03.
And I'm Praetorian.
Welcome to February 2023 edition of Ramblings of Mad People, where we are talking about our past month and the things that we've been up to in the video game world. So I was going to kick things off today talking about a little bit of a follow-up on something that I mentioned last time. I was talking about finishing up the Resident Evil 6 DLC, and so technically I finished that this month. I had finished it the last time that we recorded, because we record the first Saturday into the month.
When we have time.
When we have time. And so I just wanted to follow up on that a little bit, because I did play that a little bit more into the month, because while I was finished with all of my DLC, one of the guys that I was playing with was not finished with all of his yet. So I went back and another friend of ours and myself, we helped him get the rest of his achievements on the rest of the DLC for that game, which was cool. It was fun playing with them. I don't often do that anymore with other people, because so often these days I don't choose games that have multiplayer components and things like that. And a lot of times the co-op we're doing together, so it don't often get to play with some of our other friends. So it was nice to catch up with Kosher and James and to get some of that stuff done. It was, the game itself, the DLC for that game was all multiplayer modes that were completely unnecessary and not very good. So the game itself wasn't super fun, but it was nice to catch up, and it didn't take too long. It was something like maybe 10-15 hours to do all 4 of the DLCs. So
it's not too bad.
Not too bad all in all. And, ugh.
It sounds like it's from that era
Yep. Mm-hmm,
where they had English had bolted on multiplayer for a lot of games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because it's like, we'll just tack a multiplayer on, everyone will love it. And then they went, actually, no. And you especially see it in the remasters where they take multiplayers out. Like, the Ezio collection has no multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
And neither does Mass Effect.
Right, because they're like,
it's too much effort.
It's too much effort, and nobody is going to play them. And, the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer was pretty fun, and I think fairly successful for them.
I would also say that Assassin's Creed Brotherhood was probably pretty good. It was when I played, but I came to the multiplayer late.
It was interesting because it was a different kind of multiplayer. A lot of the modes were, you were hiding and trying to assassinate people rather than just sort of running around, like most multiplayers. So that was interesting. I think
that's what it was supposed to be like, and then it ended up with just people running around.
That's fair.
And they try and get the most kills possible.
Rather
than trying to build up a multiplier.
Right. It's just experiments, right? And some of them were failed experiments, but in any case, the Resident Evil 6 stuff was, it was just all fairly standard multiplayer fare. I think there was one that had a kind of interesting mechanic where it was like you and your friend you and the other people that were playing were all on separate maps, and you were killing zombies. And when you killed zombies, it sent more zombies to the other person's map. Right? And so it was, and the more that you sent, the more difficult types it was and things like that. And so, if you could build up a multiplier and send a bunch at once, then they would have a lot of difficult things to try to deal with. And it was trying to, survive the longest. And so that one, I mean, that it was an interesting idea. I still don't think it was super fun, but it was also using some of the old mechanics. So like moving around and shooting and stuff was not the best now that I go back and play that game. Um it wasn't awful, but it also wasn't. There's been a lot of innovation in terms of third person shooting since that point. And so
At least it wasn't tank camera mode.
that's true. It was not tank camera. So there was that. And at least we weren't chasing paper. It wasn't collectibles either. So, it's yeah, that's the best thing that I can say about that DLC. I do remember enjoying, this is a controversial opinion now. I do remember enjoying Resident Evil 6, the story. I kind of liked it. I liked they had 4 different storylines, and then they all kind of intersected at certain points. I thought that was interesting. And I kind of liked where they were going with it. I think a lot of people didn't like it because it was a continuation of Resident Evil 5's more action focus rather than stealth and I don't know, exploration and horror focus that the earlier games had, but I didn't mind 6's storyline. But sadly, I don't think that they're ever going to really continue on from there. I think that they've moved on from that.
No, I think that storyline has definitely died.
Yeah. It would be nice if they brought back some of the characters, though. I mean, Sherry Birkin, the sort of grown-up Sherry Birkin, and I liked Helena, one of the new characters that they brought in. So it would be nice if they had them in something else. But we'll see. We'll see if they ever do that. So anyway, that was the finish of the Resident Evil 6 DLC and kind of the swan song for that game for me. I mean, I might go back and replay the story at some point, but
nice.
Yeah.
It's nice just getting that ticked off the list.
Absolutely. So, where was the start of your month, Mr. Praetorian?
Well, the start of my month was the continuation of playing Just Cause 3, which I started at the end of January, and I got that one complete. I like the setting of that game. It's set in Medici, which is like a rip-off of Italy. It's just nice because it's nice and bright and warm and not dank and grey and brown like some games can be, where it's we have all the colour palettes in the world, but we're just going to go with brown and grey.
Yep.
Because we want to make it look miserable.
Yes. Because everything is a war-torn post-apocalypse.
Precisely.
Or something, right?
And it got dirty, and that's why it's brown. But no, I like the weapon mechanics in that game, and there's the grappling hook mechanic, which is really good, where you can you can grapple onto things, go up buildings, hang from vehicles, but you can also grapple things together. So you can grapple. So there's a mechanic in the game called Chaos, where it's you destroy infrastructure of the regime you're trying to topple and you get Chaos points. And it's cool to be able to grapple Chaos items and rip them off their housing, like gas canisters and transformers and things like that. So yeah, it's a fun mechanic. You can do ingenious things with it, like attach vehicles to each other and attach someone to a gas canister that then you shoot and have it fly away with them still attached to it. Exactly. Just gone. I will also say another mechanic I really like from that game is it shows the collectibles on the map when you've liberated an area.
Nice.
So when you liberate all the settlements, it puts lots of little question marks where the collectibles are. And when you get close to them, it has a radar on the map, on the screen.
Sweet.
So it's oh, thanks. That is really helpful considering there's probably at least 100 collectibles in that game, if not more. I wish other games would learn from that.
Yep.
Anthem.
Yep.
But yeah, I actually didn't mind the DLC in that game either. So
Yeah.
the DLC kind of helped me with the main game because I did the DLC as early as I could.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was able to get like a booster for the wingsuit that you have that made it so I didn't have to keep calling in vehicles to traverse across the map to go to different areas. And then I got this weapon called the Eden Spark, which has like infinite ammunition. It's basically like a lightning laser from space
Yeah.
that you can then just have it like go across the ground and destroy all the bases that you need to take over to liberate the islands, because there are tons of locations, and that's kind of one of my dislikes for the game is there's too many and they're all the same.
Yep.
It's like liberate this village, so you've got to blow up a billboard and you've got to blow up a van that's driving, a propaganda van that's driving around, pull down a statue, blow up some little like speaker things, and it's just like, okay, I've done that 15 times. Oh, there's 35 more of them. Let's go. And then like every village had like a police station that you had to take over, but it was like you have to cause chaos within the police station, but sometimes there's nothing in there for you to destroy. And so it's like you had to like lure vehicles inside and then blow them up, or shoot a bunch of the guards that keep spawning, but sometimes it didn't count the kills to increase the chaos meter, and it was kind of strange.
Yeah. That sounds like a mechanic that didn't work the best.
Mm-hmm. My biggest problem with it was when the servers started to disconnect. I don't know whether there were server problems everywhere on that game or whether it was just my end, but every time I went to the menu, it tried to reconnect to the servers, which took 30 seconds, and then it went, oh, the servers are down. And then you back out and do your thing, and then go back in the menu, and it'd be like, reconnected to servers. 30 seconds later, servers are down. And I'm just like, can I just not reconnect, please?
You're like, I don't want, I never asked to connect to the
everything I was
servers.
doing, I was like, okay, I'm going to check the map. Servers are down. Yes, I know. Please stop trying to reconnect me. You've eaten half an hour of my life. Can I have it back, please?
Yep. That's awful.
Yeah. I will also say there are too many challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the wingsuit challenges. Like, there's so... I think because they added it in for Just Cause 3, because it wasn't in the first two, they were like, let's put as many challenges as we possibly can in for that thing. And it's like, why? I only need like 100 points or 100 gears. So it's like, you have to get a certain score and it gives you gears. It's effectively points to buy upgrades for things.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's different upgrade categories. And so you have to buy all the upgrades. And then you also have to buy... Well, you have to do all of the challenges to get 100% as part of the 100%. And so it was like, awesome, I've unlocked all the upgrades. I've still got to do another 8 challenges that I don't really want to do, but I need to do for the 100%.
Right.
Because I'd 100%ed all the other challenges.
And did you have to get, like, all the gears on each one? Or did
you have to effectively get 5 stars in every challenge in the game.
Ugh.
And some of those are not fun.
I recall.
But then I ended up I ended up remembering my cheating ways. And so I like got a fairly good score and then flew around in a circle using the grapple to keep myself aloft, going, I'll get the points eventually. 20 minutes later. And then you hit a tree, 5 points off. It's like, no.
Yikes.
But yeah, all in all, I did enjoy it, but that game definitely has some issues. Especially if they ever take the servers down. I don't know how anyone's going to play it. I wanted to check to see whether you could go offline on the main menu, but I forgot. So that might be an option that I just missed, or it might not exist.
Yeah.
But like, it's a fun game to just mess around in. but trying to get all of the achievements, it can get a little bit
Yeah.
of a slog, sadly.
Right. Yeah, I remember because we played that on Xbox, and this was you playing it again on PlayStation,
PlayStation.
right?
Yeah, to get the
Um,
trophies.
it's just been a while, so I don't remember. I mean, I remember it being fun mechanically fun to fly around and use the grappling
Hmm.
hook and blow things up, and there were like statues you had to blow up to, right? And their head goes rolling off, and
Yeah.
I remember that being fun. I don't remember the story very much at all, and
It's there's a dictator, you need to deal with them, you have several
right.
different allies that you work with, and
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
it's it's Rico's home. And so
Right.
there's a little bit of history there, but it's really the main story isn't much to write home about, in my opinion. It's just like
It
the
it it
the
creates the
destruction side
setting
of
to
things.
blow
Yeah,
things up.
is what you want.
Yeah. That makes sense. But so all in all, a thumbs up or a thumbs down on Just Cause 3?
A thumbs up,
Mm-hmm.
but not like super thumbs up.
Right.
It's a 3.5 out of 5.
Just a one thumb up, not two.
Yeah.
You're like, what is this rating system we're suddenly doing?
I know, it's like, how many thumbs do I have? 2. So no thumbs is really bad. 1 thumb is average. 2 thumbs is good.
Is
1
great.
thumb.
So 3.5 out of 5 is what you rate.
Yeah, 3.5 out of 5 stars.
Cool.
I think that's a rating system that makes more sense.
Is it 2 thumbs up? Is it 2 thumbs sideways? Is it a thumb up and a sideways thumb?
Wait, so is a thumb sideways half a thumb? And a thumb down is bad.
Right.
So it could be 2 thumbs down, one thumb down, then neutral thumbs.
Neutral thumbs.
So 2 thumbs sideways, one thumb up, or 2 thumbs up. So that's the 5-star system.
Or 1 thumb up and 1 thumb down. It was good and bad.
That sounds like semantics.
No, we can't. We're not going to create a thumb rating system.
No, we're really not. Moving on.
No.
So what was your
forward.
next game?
Oh my god. So really, the majority of my month was consumed by Horizon Forbidden West, or as we like to call it, Horizon Forbidden Frozen Wild West, the sequel, number 2.
The sequel, yeah. Number 2.
So I really, really liked this game. I mean, to just put it out there, long story short. And I don't want to spoil anything about the plot of the game or the plot of the previous game. So I'm going to try to talk in general terms, I guess.
I'll give them a spoiler. Aloy is still in it.
Yes. Yes, Aloy is still in it. So it's shocking since she's on the cover.
Yep. We're gonna have to put up a spoiler hand,
Yep.
or maybe a spoiler thumb.
Right, a spoiler thumb. The spoiler thumb. Oh no. Okay. But truly, no spoilers for the story. I think, and the story for me for this game is what is most important about it to me personally. So, I think that the story was good. It had a good main plot. It continued on well from the original game. And I liked that it incorporated the events that happened in the Frozen Wilds DLC as well. So both the main story of Horizon Zero Dawn and some of the stuff from the DLC for that game both kind of led into Forbidden West, which was cool. I think it introduced a lot of good new characters and some new tribes and cultures and lore about the world, both the current world and the old world. that I thought were really interesting and sort of enriched the setting and the story of the game. And it also had some continuing characters from the first game that made a return, and I thought were mostly used really well. And it was nice to have that, continuity. It's always good to have returning characters and stuff, right? It's like you really like
It's
someone.
always good to have continuity.
Well, yes,
I wish
it
other
is.
games would, do it.
Right. And I think that, the consequences from the first game and from Aloy's actions and things, I feel like they had some impact, not just on the world and on like the plot, but on the characters and really like how they felt. And I think it delved a little bit more into like some development for a few of them, right? How they felt about themselves, how they felt about each other, and kind of the relationships between them were important to the story and to the themes that they had as well. So I thought that was really good. I think that speaking of themes, they had a good use of a few themes that I identified weaving through. And those sort of tied in a lot of the side quests and a lot of the characters that you meet, and it tied all those things into some of the main plot themes that you had going on. So again, to not spoil anything, right? I'm going to do a video when I get to it in my list of platinums that I have, right? So I'll do a video that I will have some more in-depth stuff about the plot and themes and stuff and what I think about them. But to just speak in sort of neutral terms here without spoilers.
Yeah, that video is like spoilers abound, be warned.
Exactly. But for here, I'll just say that I think they had a good use of themes and using that to kind of tie a lot of the stuff together. I thought they did well. I really liked the antagonists of the games, or of the game. I think that there were a few of them, and they all were pretty layered and complex, and, and sometimes toe that line, between antagonist and someone who might be an ally, right? So similar to the first one, right? Where some of the characters in that, it's like it's a little bit gray in terms of whether they're an ally or whether they're an antagonist, and I don't know, I just think they did those characters very well. Which is
makes
cool.
the story more complex because you're not
Yes.
100% sure which direction it's going to go in,
Right.
who's going to end up being on your side, who's not,
Mm-hmm.
who turns against you, if they turn against you, and it's just like, oh, that's cool.
Right.
I don't know the plot.
Right. And it's
Haven't played it.
and it's good to have some things feel like they're black and white, but for the antagonists to have understandable reasons why they are doing the things they are doing, right? Not necessarily that then makes them sympathetic, but it makes them understandable. And I think that that's really important, that it's not just or at least not everyone is just this like, well, I'm evil because I'm evil. Wah-ha-ha-ha! Right? It's I am doing this thing because of reasons, and they might be selfish reasons, but they are reasons that a person can kind of understand, right? Because of the experiences
their
that they've
motivations
had
to be believable and not
Yes.
just, oh, they're bad because they're bad and we need them to be bad for plot reasons, and it's
Exactly.
like lazy. Stop being lazy.
Exactly. And I think, again, I think that they did that really well in Zero Dawn, and I think that they, again, did that well here. But it didn't feel like a copy, right? Like it felt like there were new antagonists that had new reasons for what they were doing, and it didn't feel like they were copying what they did in Zero Dawn with the antagonists there and just trying to do it again. It truly was like a continuation with new stuff, which was good. Because I think too often people try to fall back on, well, let's just take what we did in the first game or movie or book and repeat that, with someone else. And it just feels lazy and it gets old and it gets predictable. So.
And if you continue that through a series, it just ends in stagnation of that series because you just run over the same ground over and over again and people are looking for something different and it's like, it's just not there.
Right. So, good antagonists. I think that the setting continued to be very interesting to play around in. There's lots of lore and little tidbits and stuff that you can find in the like audio recordings and the text message recordings and stuff like that you can find throughout the world. And so it had this nice mixture of things that you're discovering about the current cultures and things that you're discovering about the previous cultures that occupied this world, which is really cool. I think that there was good character development for Aloy, yay, and good character development for some of the other characters, yay. We like character development.
I put my hands up in the air to do the yay and realized that no one can see me doing that. So I was also doing yay, but non-verbal yay.
Right. Just imagine the sound effect of Grunt Birthday Party.
Mm-hmm.
Yay!
Yay!
Right there. So yeah, we like character development. Character development is good. And especially character development that makes sense. That's right, Brutus.
He agrees.
He agrees.
He enjoys character development as well.
He does. They also still had robot dinosaurs and robot animals, and they're still cool. And you can override more of them and ride more. There's different mounts that you can have this time, which is good. And then the last little thing that I have on my list of positives is there weren't very many collectibles, and you didn't have to get them all.
What?
I know, right? An open world game where you didn't have to do every single thing and overturn every single pebble. Amazing. So,
don't give them ideas. I don't want to have to collect 1 million pebbles.
Right. I mean, you can pick up rocks. Rocks are a thing that you can collect, and it's like a mechanic you can use.
Dawn as well.
But you don't have to pick up every single one, so that's good.
Yeah,
they
if
had
there was a trophy for that, it would be called No Stone Left Unturned, as you pick up the last rock.
No, please. So, there are various collectibles and things. So there's, like I said, the audio recordings, the text message recordings. There's different artifacts and things that you can find. There's different like survey drones and black box recordings from airplanes that had crashed, and like there's different things that you can find, but you don't have to find any of the audio and text recordings. You can just totally ignore those if you want to, but they do add, I think, to the story and the lore and stuff.
I think it was the same in Zero Dawn as well.
Yeah.
You didn't have to collect the audio logs. It was like cups, metal flowers. And
Mm-hmm. But they don't even have any of those things. It's like a couple, like I said, a couple of different ones. There's like 5 or 6 different types of things you can find. And there's maybe 10 or 12 of each one of them. But you only have to find one of each, which I really like. Wow. that model. Right? Like that there's more things that you can go and collect, but the trophies only require you to collect one of each of those things, which is really good in my opinion. There were also a lot of activities and things that you didn't have to fully do. So there's a bunch of different hunting grounds, and you have to do all of them, but you don't have to 3-star every single hunting challenge, right? You only have to get 1 star in each of the hunting challenges. If you get 3, then you get more rewards and stuff, which can be helpful for like upgrades and to buy more things.
Potentially an incentive to get 3 if you want particular upgrades.
Exactly. There's a reward.
Not for the trophy hunting side of
stuff. There is a reward for doing all of the things and for doing all of the things, to their full potential. But it's not something that the trophy list tries to force you to do, which I think is nice, right? I think is what a trophy list should be, is like an encouragement to try all of the different things, right? An encouragement to hey, go and see what all these things are, but not a super obsessive, you must do every tiny little thing and then you're gonna hate it, at the end because you spent 60 hours chasing paper instead of us filling the game with actual content, which I think this game did the opposite. Like, there was so much content in this game. I think I played it for my official count says 100 hours, but my save game says about 80. So it was probably somewhere in the middle there. Some of it was just me leaving it on. And paused and stuff. And so somewhere between 80 and 100 hours. And the vast majority of that was actual quests and side quests and, stuff in the game that was what I would think of as like actual content and not just copy paste filler stuff, So
and I think that's one of the major problems I have with Ubisoft, especially with that open world games, is it has just become collectathons.
Yeah.
Like, go and get all the collectibles in the game, or go and visit all the locations and clear every location in the game, and it's just not fun. And that's a trophy list that doesn't really require, like, skill. It's more willpower and determination and many hours of effort.
Yep.
And it's like...
To just try to finish it all, right?
Yeah.
And we don't need that. No, we don't need that. Like I was saying, with this, it has lots of side quests and lots of side stuff that you can do. But for the trophy list to get your platinum, you don't have to do all that. You don't even have to do all the side quests. I did a lot more of them than I had to do because I enjoyed them and I wanted to, again, they really fleshed out the world. They all felt different from each other because they weren't just doing the same thing over and over again. Go here and clear out this camp. Go here and do this. They all had a little story that went along with them and they all felt different, to me. And that is very different from a lot of other games, especially like open world games and stuff. But I think I still have 4 or 5 side quests that I haven't completed, and I have the platinum. And then there's a bunch of those extra collectible things that I haven't done either. So, there's more content in the game than you have to do, which I think is nice, and the incentive to doing it is not to get a trophy. The incentive to doing it is because you want to, because it's good. Right? And I think that there's a lot of games that miss the mark with that try to incentivize you doing everything by placing an achievement or a trophy on it, instead of making it actual good content that you do because you want to, because it's good content. So, end rant about that. Let's talk about some of the things that were not so great about this game. I think the combat was a little frustrating, especially at first, when you didn't have a lot of weapons at your disposal. once you get used to some of the mechanics and you get used to using the elemental status effects and weaknesses of the different machines and enemies to your advantage, it gets better. But I do think the enemies are still a little bit too fast and too capable of doing these AoE, area of effect attacks that just end up knocking you over and sometimes stun locking you. And the dodge mechanic is not good enough for you to be able to dodge away from some of those things. And so sometimes you'll just end up getting hit. And I don't know. I just think the combat could have been better. It became less frustrating once I figured out how to play it, I suppose. But I don't know. Just saying that right there, once I figured out how to play it, right? Like, it just didn't feel intuitive enough, and it didn't feel... even once I understood kind of what it wanted me to do, it still didn't feel smooth, or it didn't ever feel like I had mastery over it such that I could get through a fight without getting hit consistently, right? And so, I don't know. The combat left a little bit to be desired, and I think that the upgrades, I felt the upgrade trees was just a little lackluster. It felt kind of boring and almost like you were just doing the same things from the first game.
That's kind of sad.
Like, there were some new, like, melee moves and stuff like that you could do and learn and chain together. So it's not like it was exactly the same, but it just felt like upgrading just to upgrade, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know.
It's like, oh, you had upgrades in the first game, we should probably have them in this game, but we're
Right.
just going to make them kind of more of the same because we don't really know what else to give you.
Yeah.
And so...
yeah,
here's some upgrades.
It was funny because it was like, because you did still have things like you had Silent Strike and you had Strike from Above, and like you started with some of those moves that were upgrades from the first game. So I suppose that it didn't take everything away from you, which I think is a positive, right? Because I always feel like that's stupid when you get into the second game and they come up with either some contrived reason for why you lost all your abilities from before, or they just take them away for no reason and you have to get them again. I always think that's a little bit video gamey and stupid. And so they didn't 100% do that here, but they did it a little. And then the upgrades were just like, this thing does more damage now, and now you can load this faster, and now you can knock 3 arrows instead of 1, which was an upgrade from the first game that you suddenly forgot how to do, and now you have to get it again. So, like, I don't know. The upgrade tree was not the greatest aspect of this game, and I think the last little minor negative, I guess, was I felt like a couple of the story beats felt a little bit contrived or predictable. But overall, I think the story was really solid. And I think that it was a really good sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn. Like, I can fully understand why this game was nominated for Game of the Year and why some people might have placed it as their Game of the Year. Because it was a fun game, really good story, and if you enjoyed Horizon Zero Dawn, I don't think there's any reason to expect that you're not going to like Forbidden West. So,
nice.
5 stars from me.
How many thumbs is that?
2. So that was the majority of my month, was Horizon Forbidden West. But you had some more things that you played. So
Yeah, so I played Mirror's Edge Catalyst again. I'd played that one previously on Xbox. The reason why I'm going back and doing some of these older games is, like I've said before, I want to get games that have server-based trophies that are from the beginning of the PS4 generation done, because some of the like 360 servers have gone, and with them, especially with like Xbox, with them no longer supporting the Xbox One or manufacturing the Xbox One, I wonder how long some of the older, less popular games servers will last, and so it feels like a good idea to get them sorted sooner rather than later and lament the fact that I can't 100% them, because I want to keep my PlayStation profile with 100% completion with just plats and non-plat games that don't have DLC. So yeah, it's like a parkour game. So you play as a runner, which is like let's say underground resistance people that are trying to find information on the government's plans as to what they're trying to do with people in this futuristic like city called Glass, and it's kind of like dystopian, where there's a big gap between the high class people and the low class people, and there's lots of like technology and like gene manipulation that goes on that tries to keep the people that are in charge in control and the people that are down where they feel like they should be. And so I like the setting of the game. The city's interesting, the dystopian future idea is interesting, and it gives it kind of a different avenue with it being a parkour-based game and not just like Fallout, where it's like, that's kind of been done before.
Right.
And obviously there was a first Mirror's Edge, and this is like a reimagining of the story. It's not a continuation, it's like a reboot, effectively. Sadly, it didn't do well enough to get a sequel.
Yeah.
It's very niche, I would say, sadly. Interesting, but niche. So I think the mechanics worked pretty well in that game for the most part. The like traversal and like abilities that you can unlock to make it easier to like wall run and jump from walls to pipes and move quickly and gain focus, which is like this ability that you have so that if you're running and you have focus, you don't get killed by the guards that are shooting at you. It acts like a shield, effectively. And so, yeah, I thought the game worked well. So there's these you have lots of side jobs you can do. You can like be a courier and take packages from one location to another. And there's these things called dashes where you have to like run time trials. The trouble with the dashes is some of them felt very much optimized for PC with mouse capability. I mean, it's not as bad as the first game was from what Dormouse has said, because I didn't play that one, where it's like unbelievably hard to get like 5 stars or 3 stars or 1 thumb on the on the score that you need. And so yeah, it was kind of frustrating on some of those where it's like you do 80% of them fairly easily, and then the other ones are just frustrating because some of what you need to do is it's hard to replicate on a run. Like, I can do this bit perfectly fine, but this last, like, try and wall run. So, yeah, wall run, then wall climb, then jump off the wall backwards so that you then wall climb again, then jump backwards onto a pipe. Trying to do that, like, repeatable so that you can get your time down is difficult, especially with the longer ones where it's like a minute and a half to 2 minutes. Is you mess up early, you just restart, and so you just don't see the end well enough on the time scale that you need.
Yeah.
So this kind of had a same thing as Just Cause, where it would show you the collectibles on the map.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem was it was only one set of collectibles. These like glowing yellow orbs called grid leaks that you could pick up. All the other collectibles you have to like use a guide to find out where they are. I don't know why they
Why?
decided that one collectible. I mean, because there's more grid leaks than anything else. There's like several hundred of them, but it's like there's still combined like over 100 of the others. There's documents and hidden bags and audio logs.
Hmm.
Some of those are in missions, so you can replay missions. But I found out to my cost, thinking, oh, I've got all the collectibles in this mission. And then when I went back and looked at the screen, I went, why have I only got 1 out of 7? If you die before a checkpoint, you lose the collectible that you collected.
No.
I didn't know that, so I had to go back and replay a level again and like fastidiously go, okay, don't die. You need to get a checkpoint, otherwise you've got to redo that entire thing. So that was frustrating. Collectibles in general are frustrating.
Yes.
But when you're chasing paper and then someone sets fire to the paper and you've got to go and collect the paper again, it's not fair.
No, it's not. You don't want to do it again. It's like, I've done this already. I don't want to do it again.
Yeah, it's just
yeah.
Modern gaming and collectibles and just the absurd amount of them is just frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
But no, like overall, that's another 3.5 to 4. I think I gave this one 4 because 4 out of 5 because I enjoy the story a lot more than Just Cause.
Yeah.
And I'm sad that there won't be a sequel to it because it was kind of interesting what they set up in it. I know the game's old, but I still don't want to spoil things.
Right, yeah, because, I mean, there are people who may not have played it, and...
It goes on sale all the time.
Yeah.
For like £3.
Mm-hmm.
Which in American money is probably $3 because I have to pay more for stuff for some reason when it comes to video games.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would recommend it if you have the patience for that kind of mechanic where it's basically just running around first person, running along walls and stuff.
Mm-hmm. There was, from my recollection, more shooting in this one than there was in the original.
Oh, yeah, you've touched upon something that I missed. The combat is terrible. It's awful. It's like, why? Yep. So, you unlock all these abilities to fight people, and it's just slow. Like, the rest of the game's quick, but it's like, okay, I'm going to roundhouse kick this person while everybody's shooting at me because there's 8 people in this room, and it's like, you've got to knock everybody out. And then you try and go in for a combo hit, and you're against a guard that decides that he's going to break your combo and knock you over, and it just felt so clunky. I was like, why does this need to be in the game? Can I not just run away from everybody?
Yeah. You could in the first game, in the original, there was actually an achievement to play through without killing anybody, without really engaging in combat at all. So
yeah, there's achievements in this one for knocking out 10 guards or security people without your focus meter dropping to 0. So you have to keep on the move.
Right.
So all I was doing was running up walls, jumping off and like kicking people in the face.
Yep. Because
that's literally the easiest way to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just an unnecessary. It just felt like an unnecessary addition to the game that just slowed it down for the sake of like this. It kind of, for realism's sake, of like you will find yourself in situations where you're breaking into buildings to get information, and obviously there's going to be security guards, and you're going to trip an alarm, and so combat makes sense, but it was also. It didn't feel like it was something that they spent enough time getting to a good enough standard.
Gotcha. So it feels like it didn't flow as well as the rest of the mechanics.
Precisely. Unless I was just doing it wrong, which is entirely possible.
Well, it's one of those things where it's very different from other games because of the focus on traversal and movement and that sort of thing, right? Like the first person parkour of it all. And so,
it's almost like Titanfall.
Yeah. Except Titanfall
I think,
had better mechanics, I think. But at least Titanfall 2.
It's that kind of like first person wall running stuff. That's a game that had a similar mechanic that just popped into my head.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that Dying Light has similar mechanics, right? Where it focuses on a lot of first person parkour stuff.
It's not a franchise I've ever played.
No, I haven't either, but I think I've seen a little bit of it and I've heard it described that way. So I think that it has similar mechanics. So I suppose if you like that kind of thing, then this might be a game for you. But
with a slightly different change of pace.
Yeah, I remember enjoying the game. It's interesting because it was a reboot of the original. The story was, I think, better in Catalyst. I think that they added a lot of detail to the story that wasn't there in the original, and the characters and the setting felt a lot more fleshed out.
I have a very strange anecdote about the original Mirror's Edge. So there was a chain of shops in the UK called Woolworths that went defunct in 2008. I was at university and I was like, I'll go and check and see if they've got any like video games that are for cheap because they're closing down. The only game they had left was Mirror's Edge, the first game. And there were hundreds of cases. That was literally all they had on the shelves. I was like, oh dear, I don't know if I want to buy that. Because I had no idea what it was at that stage.
That's weird. Because this was way
before we met. But I was like, there was literally just like a shelf section full of Mirror's Edge. Yeah. And that was it. That was all that was left. Because this was like the day before they were closing. And I was like, obviously not a popular game.
I don't know. I feel like you said, it was a very niche kind of title.
It was. And but that just has indelibly seared itself into my brain of like, wow, that's a lot of Mirror's Edge.
That's funny. It's one of those things where I would say, as a gamer, I would recommend it because it was interesting and it was different, and I enjoyed playing it, the original game, and Catalyst as well. But speaking more to the original, I would say it's one of those things that feels like it's worth playing because it was really the first of its type of that sort of thing. And things like Titanfall and Dying Light and those kinds of mechanics have their roots, really, I think, in Mirror's Edge, because it was the first one that did that kind of thing. And it created a really interesting world. It also had some really interesting graphics. Like, I think graphically, it is a really pretty and good like aesthetic that they did with it, where
it's very, very clean.
Yeah, very clean, and with like different colors being used to highlight the different things that you can interact with and move on. I don't know. I liked the aesthetic of it. I liked the movement system, even though the controls sometimes feel like maybe they're not made for a controller. They're made for a mouse and keyboard, and or just don't work as well as they should. It still, I feel like, is a game worth playing. As an achievement or trophy hunter, do not touch the first game. Just don't. Because the time trials and the speed runs for the chapters in that game are hellacious, and
I don't even know if the servers are still up.
I don't know
for, like,
either.
Posting the times, if the DLC is even still available.
I don't know, and I don't know if that's necessary. I don't know if it's necessary to have the leaderboards in order to get the achievements and trophies on there, but yeah, just the precision that it requires, the mechanics do not support that level of precision, and it is very, very frustrating and very, very difficult. And I would definitely not recommend that for an achievement or trophy hunter unless you are a masochist.
Or really good at those kind of games.
Or really good at those kind of games. Or if you have a mouse and keyboard that you can plug in and use. Maybe you're really good at that. Or if you just really want the, street cred of doing something really hard. Like, there you go. But for your average human being who just wants to get the achievements and move on, that is not going to be a fun experience. So...
yeah, so it doesn't look like you need any of the server stuff for any of the achievements, and it looks like the servers were supposed to close January this year.
Okay.
Whether they have or not. And there's a warning saying, in order to record a speedrun or time trial record, the connection to the EA servers must be cancelled. Failure to do so will require you to restart the game. So it sounds like it kind of blocks you from being able to actually do a time because you can't upload it anymore. So you have to make sure you're not connected to the servers at all.
Right, I gotcha. Interesting. So yeah, so you think that Catalyst was like a 4-star for you? 4 out of 5?
Yeah.
Cool.
4 out of 5.
All right. And I think the last game on both of our lists was one that we did together, and that is Anthem.
Yes, for the second time. This time on Xbox.
Yep.
Whereas we'd done it on PlayStation before.
Yep. And we enjoyed it enough when we played it on PlayStation to do it again on Xbox.
Well, and it was also £3. So.
Yes. and I got it for free because it was on Games Pass. So, It it was a cheapie, and it was one that we could do together. What is your impression of Anthem after having played it again?
I enjoy the main story. Mm-hmm. I like pretty much all the characters except for Owen, who can go die in a hole.
Yep.
The suits are really good. I like the different abilities each one has.
Mm-hmm.
I play the chunky Colossus because I am a chunky Colossus in real life, and so it just speaks to me on many levels. And painted it red because red's my favorite color. And I like the setting, like the planet that it's on. It's not on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least I don't think it's Earth.
No, I don't think so.
And so, yeah, they're just the freedom to have whatever creatures they wanted to put on there, and the geography and stuff. It's just a very pretty game.
Mm-hmm.
I like games that get water aesthetics done well.
Mm-hmm.
Like that to me is that's a good game. They've worked hard on the graphics, because some games you look at water and go, what's that supposed to be? It looks like a seizure. I actually had that once on Morrowind on PC. I guess whatever laptop I was playing it on was just not coping well, and the water was literally just flashing like a strobe light, and I was like, yeah, that's a seizure.
Oh, God. No.
Yeah, I turned it off pretty much straight away. I was like, sadly, I'll just have to
not
play Morrowind on here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I totally agree. I didn't even think about the graphics when I was writing down my little points about Anthem, but you're right. It was really pretty. I liked the different designs for the different, creatures that inhabited the world, the different, I guess, humanoid type creatures, as well as your animal creatures.
Yeah.
I think that those were really cool. They could have done with perhaps a little bit more diversity within they could have had more, I guess, fauna that inhabited the world, but
there's only 3 human factions. There's the Scars, the Dominion, and the Outlaws, and I think the Outlaws and the Dominion kind of the human troops look fairly similar, and there's a few extra things. The Scars definitely look different to everybody else, and I agree. the flora and fauna. There's like 10
Yeah.
different animal type creatures, I think,
Yeah. And the
including
ones
the Titans.
right, and the enemies that you fight are basically like these wolven, so they're sort of wolf type creatures, and the
They almost look like
scorpions.
horse wolves.
Yeah, horse wolves, and then the scorpion enemies, the arachnid type,
Scorpione.
and then the titans, and then the brutes.
Yeah. And then I was thinking of like the grabbits, which you don't really fight.
Right, yeah, you don't fight the grabbits, and there are a couple of other things.
Aurochs or whatever they're called.
Yeah, and then the wyverns also, I guess, the flying things that shoot fire at you.
And the ones that look like giant apes.
Mm-hmm.
Abrax? I can't remember all the names.
Yeah. But I don't know. It just felt like maybe there could have been a few more different types of creatures that inhabited the world, but, you know.
I think that's one of the major problems with Anthem is that it didn't do well, so it didn't get any support, and so they didn't add anything new in.
Right. And I think that what was there originally was good, but it could have used a little bit more diversity. I think the map also was problematic because trying to find your way around some of those areas was confusing, you know, and then you'd have to look back on the map
you have
and
that, like, the Rob Nav brain that I have where I'm like, oh yeah, I know where I'm going, and you're like, how? And I'm like, I don't know. It's this way.
Yeah.
But yeah,
but even you got lost in places, and you would be like, where are we?
Exactly.
And you'd look on the map and whatever. So it's like, yes, you did better because you remember things really well. It's like, oh, well, we went to this place on this one mission that was exactly like the 7 other missions that we've done, and so I don't have any idea what you're talking about, but you remember it because that's how your memory works, which is awesome. But when you were trying to find stuff and you didn't know where it was and you were trying to use the map, it was still confusing even for you, right?
Yeah.
So
no, it's like no, I totally agree. Like, even with how my navigational skills work, it was like, how can I get through this wall to get to the thing we need to get to? And it was like, you have to go down and around and up and this side.
And through this one particular cave.
Yeah.
That is hard to see. And isn't noted on the map very clearly. Right?
No.
So, yeah.
Also, I will say one of the things I hated the most about the map, there is no way to put a waypoint.
Yes, you can't put a waypoint somewhere and go, I want to go here, and then it gives you directions on, like, visually.
Yeah. It's like I don't understand why that wasn't a thing. I mean, it's BioWare and EA, so they probably rushed it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that the entire game speaks to that, right? Like, I think I really enjoyed the story. I thought the story was very solid. I thought the characters were good. I thought the setting and the lore, like, they created a really interesting setting and story to go along with that setting. But then a lot of the other stuff felt very bare bones. Like the dialogue stuff and the dialogue options it might as well not have been there, right?
Because, I don't know why it was really there, to be honest.
Yeah, because it's like you had a conversation and you could make a couple of different, like, dialogue choices within those conversations, but it never really changed much. You know, like, it would just continue on regardless of what you said or what choices you used. And so it feels like, why the dialogue choices for the sake of having dialogue choices, right? And I don't understand
why... Uncharted 4.
Yes, exactly. Why you have a mechanic that doesn't do anything, right? Like that doesn't add anything. You might, if you just had the option to go talk to people and then you had a little cutscene where they had a conversation, fine. We didn't need to have dialogue choices within that because it didn't add anything to it, right? And so, yeah, I don't know. That just, again, it felt like perhaps they were going to try to do more with that because BioWare made Mass Effect and Dragon Age and Knights of the Old Republic and like all of these like really good RPGs that have dialogue choices that then are meaningful in the games. And so it feels like that's sort of their bread and butter. And maybe they were going to try to do something more with that, but they didn't have enough time to really implement it.
I can imagine EA just being like, no, don't bother with the dialogue. Just, get this suit ready so we can get this out next week.
Right. Or the other way, saying, oh, but you're BioWare and you do dialogue choices, so we should put those in.
Right.
Whereas they were like, we're making a linear story. It wasn't an RPG in that sense, where, you make choices and those choices impact the game. It was an RPG in the sense that you had different classes and you upgraded them and that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
So it's like it didn't need that, but they might have been like, but dialogue choices are a thing that people want in their games, and so we need to put them in there. And they're like, all right, we'll throw a couple of things in that don't matter because we don't have time to make them matter, right? I don't know. Who can say how it actually went down, but, those, I didn't feel like they were necessary. But I think that the mechanics worked well for the most part. So the shooting mechanics were solid. The flight was really fun. The only problem with the flight is you overheated after a little while, after a few seconds.
It was effectively like having a flight stamina bar for some reason.
Yes. And then you had to stop or you had to fly through some water to cool off.
Yeah, or fly down for a while.
Or fly down, and that would help. Like if you flew straight down for some reason, that helped you cool off, and then you could fly for a little bit longer. But it just felt unnecessary. Like, just let me fly. I don't want to have to stop every 30 seconds and then wait for my bar to recharge so that I can fly some more. Just let me fly. Like, it just didn't feel necessary. But yeah, like overall, I think it was a fun game. It had a lot of potential in the lore and the setting and the like you said, the javelins, the 4 different, I guess you could call them classes, right? They were classes of javelin that you could play. They had the interceptor that was really dexterous and melee focused, close combat focused, and you could move around really well. It was the most maneuverable one. Then you had the Colossus, which was your favorite, that was the big,
it was an absolute tank,
chunky thing
artillery
that had
specialist.
Yeah, just explosives and this and that. You had,
and they all had like a super, as well, like a big ability, and the Colossus's one was ridiculously overpowered, but
right.
It
was just like mini nukes.
Yeah,
3.
Boof, 3.
Boof, boof, that you just wiped the field with stuff. Then you had the Ranger that was kind of your all-around class, right? Where you had grenades and you had a good amount of maneuverability, but you still sort of focused on shooting, and it was probably an in between the Interceptor and the Colossus. And then
it was
you
like
had
a jack of all trades.
Yeah.
It was kind of decent at everything, but not particularly great at anything.
Yeah. And then the last one was called the Storm. I keep wanting to say Sorcerer, but it's not. It's the Storm.
Yeah, it was like the
class,
mage
but it's
suit.
like the mage suit. Yeah, because you can hover and fly a little bit more than the others, and you have these elemental attacks like lightning and fire
Yeah.
and stuff that you throw at people. So yeah, it was like the mage class of suit. But I think that they all were fun in their own
They were.
ways. And so I don't know, there was a good structure there for this game, but it just got no support. I think it was rushed and it got no support after it was released.
There was also a couple of issues with the main mechanics in the game being RNG based and trying to get all of the suit abilities done. So you have to complete 4 tasks with each of the different abilities equipped. But it was random as to which ones you would unlock.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had everything unlocked, and then we spent another 6, 7, 8, 10 hours.
It was probably 6 to 8 hours of grinding, trying to get
300 item drops.
Yeah, trying to get the last one that I needed. It was that was ridiculous, and that did not happen when we played it the first time. We might have had to grind a little bit to find the last things.
I think it was flipped the other way, where I was the one that couldn't get my last item, but it took maybe 3 hours at most.
Right? Yeah. It wasn't as ridiculous, but this was just. It was so bad. And then when I finally got it, I got 3 or 4 of them at once.
Yeah, and it was I'd got it 7 or 8 times, and I was like, I could trade this to you if that was a thing.
No, but you can't.
And also you can't craft it because you hadn't found it yet. And it just seemed very weird. None of these things are OP. They're also random
they're
as
just
to which
basic
one you're
gear.
going to get first. And so, if you're worried about people having too high a level gear, just make it so they can craft it at level 1.
Right. Make it so you can craft low level or comparable to your current gear level.
Yeah. Either
right?
Or. I'd be happy with the level 1 thing just to be able to get the damn thing.
Right,
on
just
your
to get it. Yeah.
I will also say the faction reputation was disproportionate. So there's the Sentinels, the Arcanists, and Freelancer. Sentinels and Arcanists we got way before because there's lots of side quests and main quests that have that reputation given to you. And the Freelancer one, we had to do overly repetitive, boring, challenge, public event, basically, esque things over and over again. And it was the same 5 and you had to do 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And so it was defend these sentinels, then go and find a dead sentinel, then kill these beasts, then go and find these arcanists that have been taken prisoner, and then it was do this X number of times in a different order, but the same things.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again, and we'll give you 50 rep, and you need 3,000.
Yeah.
And we had I think we were 400 off with the other 2 factions, and then 1,500 off with the Freelancer one. And so it just dragged the end of the game down with the grind, because it was we had to grind for XP to get to level 26, which we needn't have bothered doing because we had to do so much grinding to get your item. We got to level 29 and 30 anyway.
Yep.
And then we had to grind for reputation.
Yep. And I'll say that tagging on to that, a lot of the missions, especially the ones that were not related to the main plot, and even some of the ones within the main plot were introductions to the public event kind of things that you did in the sort of open world, but it felt like too much of the same. So all of the contracts that you did to gain reputation, all of the public event things that you did in the open world, in one of the free roams. All of those things were the same, like you said, about 5 things that you was just copied and pasted over and over and over again. And you had that in the missions that you did for the contracts for each of those factions, and you had it in a few of the main story missions, and you had it in the free roam, and it just felt like you were just doing the same thing over and over and over again. And in contrast to what I said about Horizon, where that felt like all of the side quests and stuff were pretty varied, this was the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah, it was just like... It was just boring, sadly. Yeah. It was just boring.
Yeah.
And I will also say I didn't like the fact that you couldn't unlock different items for different suits when you had one equipped.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like if you were playing as the Colossus, you would never be able to find any items for any of the other suits.
Yep.
I can kind of understand why they did that, but also I've got all the items for the Colossus. Can I, while I'm working on like these couple of weapon kills I need and these last like items that I need to work on, can I, earn equipment for another suit while I'm doing that? No.
Right. Or, like you said, be able to break down the things that you did find and then craft the things for the other suits, right? Like, if they had just unlocked the base schematics for everything so that you could then craft the gear that you wanted, then that would have made it so that it didn't feel like, well, I've played the Colossus for, 15 levels, and now I want to switch to a different suit. Well, now I have to find all of these gear pieces, but I could just craft them because now I have a bunch of, materials from, playing as the Colossus. So it doesn't feel as much like you've wasted your time, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. They could have implemented that much better.
I think all in all it was enjoyable, but it definitely had some issues.
Yeah.
I will say thankfully this time we didn't have any problems with the collectibles. We did them early, the majority of them. Whereas on the PlayStation version we had the counter reset several times, and we were, I think, fairly lucky this time to get away with not having the same glitch. But you had a weird one where it was like it would not show you the question marks.
Yes.
That denoted where the collectibles were, and so I was picking stuff up, and you were like, "Where is this thing?" And I'm like, "It's literally here." And you're like, "Where?" And I'm like, "Here." And you had to be like 2 inches away from it, and then the X would appear so you could pick it up.
Right. But it's like the icon wouldn't appear on my map to show me where it was supposed to be. And I'm like, how does he know where all these things are? And it's like, well, because the question marks are showing up on my map. And I'm like, what question marks? So, yeah, that was weird for the first couple of hours of the game. And then I did something and it fixed itself.
You used your super for the first time, and then it fixed it.
Somehow. I don't know why those two things were related, but okay. Yeah, that was very strange. I agree with you. I enjoyed this game. I would say it was about like a 4 out of 5 for me. A good, like a solid, good game. But it's a shame.
The same rating I would give for Destiny Year 1.
Yeah.
Where there was plenty good going on, but some definite flaws that dragged the experience down.
Yeah, and I think that if they had the support that Destiny had, this could have been as good, and potentially as successful, right? Like if they had continued to add and tweak the mechanics and add some more variances in activities to do and have some expansions that continued and added to the story, right?
Yeah, because the way the main story ends, it's obvious they wanted to continue it, and it's just left hanging of like, oh, that's nothing.
Yeah.
Like
Like
nothing happens.
that's never going to happen. Like you're never going to find out what happened with that. And yeah, it's a shame that it just didn't, that they just abandoned it basically when it wasn't a
Yeah,
smash hit, right? They didn't take any time to try to build a player base or to try to, throw some support at it so that it gained more traction. They just said, oh, well, this didn't sell as much as we wanted it to out of the gate, so we're just going to let it crash and burn and die. And that
yeah,
sucks.
and that seems like a lot of modern gaming.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Sadly,
It is unfortunate. But yeah, so that was our February for
it was.
for the vast majority of it. We did some longer games and completed some things. Anthem we had played in January, so we started it in January, and it took us about 6 weeks, I think, to finish.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. So
Which I think is a good time frame for that, like 60 to 80 hour multiplayer game for us, because
yep.
We used to hammer through those in
Yeah.
like 3 to 4 weeks, but we wouldn't do anything else. That would just eat up our entire
Yeah.
co-op time.
Yeah. Exactly. And so now we spend some more time doing some other things and doing our own kind of single player games as well. So
Yeah,
it feels a little bit more balanced.
I agree.
So for next month, I guess this month now for March, we're playing Saints Row: Gat Out of Hell, which is hilarious.
Yes, it's just the Saints Row that we love, and it's just fun, and
Yeah.
it's not super long, and
Yep.
it's in hell, and we have hellish powers, and it's
Yep.
good.
It's Johnny Gat and Kinsey Kensington.
Yeah, our personas.
I
I don't think so, but
No, I don't think we're either of us are quite as insane as those two
or
characters are.
psychotic.
Yeah. But yeah, it's fun. We've played it before on Xbox and it's a good time. So we're gonna have
We're
fun
doing
with
it again.
that. And then my plan for this month is to play a few shorter games. I had a really long, very good experience with Horizon, which I am planning on going back to actually and doing some of the side quests that I didn't finish on my way to the platinum. So, I mean, that tells you how much I enjoyed it, that I'm wanting to go back to it and play some more and finish some things after I've gotten all the trophies, which is cool. But I'm planning on doing a few shorties. Right now, I am playing a little indie game called Beacon Pines, which is kind of a point and click adventure with some choose your own adventure elements to it. And it's little animals and it's cute and it's like a mystery.
I heard bacon pines, and I was like, bacon.
Beacon Pines. Mm-hmm. Now we're hungry.
But cutesy animal games are up
Yeah,
your street.
it is. But it's cool. I'm liking it so far. But it's going to be a shorty. And then I have a couple of other things that I will probably play that are a little bit shorter, just to kind of cleanse my palate for the next long game. So that's my plan for this month.
My plan for this month is obviously to play our co-op game. And I've started working on the DLC for Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning on Xbox, and we'll have several things to say about that next month, hopefully, if I finish it. And I'm also going to try and make a dent in Assassin's Creed Valhalla's DLC. Just, this month is not going to be fun, sadly. But
Yeah.
I want to get it done. It's
Yeah.
been loitering on my tag for a long time, and I want my completion percentage back, and so I can start off on my old terms of not having too many games on the go, because I
Yeah.
find the longer I have a game on my tag, the less enthusiastic I am about finishing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
I'm much better off like completing a game when I start it, or having one or two games on the go, or having like one long game on the go and a couple of shorties on the go, so that I don't get too
Mm-hmm.
burnt out. But it's just it's just
Yeah.
getting to the point where DLC is starting to do my nutting, as in my
Yeah.
brain.
Yeah.
I feel like that might be a Britishism.
Yep, that's not something I would ever say, but it makes sense. I would say try to enjoy the Valhalla DLC as much as you can, because a lot of it, at least the story expansions, they're not bad in terms of what they add. It's
Yeah, I'm
just
sure the story parts are going to be fine. It's all the collectibles they add too, and I've
that's
already
true.
done 700.
That's true. Yep, there are a lot of
Anyway,
collectibles. You're
I'll
right.
survive.
We'll
Hopefully.
speak about that when we get to next month. But
Yeah.
but yeah. So you've got some DLC ahead of you. I've got a few shorties that are hopefully going to be enjoyable experiences.
More enjoyable than my experience this
Right?
coming month.
And we're gonna be doing some Saints Row action in hell, which is gonna be a wild, hopefully fun ride. So, alrighty. Well, thank you guys for listening to our ramblings this month. Hopefully, your month was good and you played some fun things. As always, let us know what you're up to, or if you played any of these games and have some opinions about them. We love to hear from you guys and interact with you in the comments. I hope that we both and that you all have a good March.
Indeed.
So take care of yourselves, and we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.